At 4ZZZ, we acknowledge the traditional owners of the land on which we broadcast. We pay our respects to the elders past, present and emerging of the Turrbal and Jagera people. We acknowledge that their sovereignty over this land was never ceded.
And we stand in solidarity with them.
You're listening to Transmission on 4ZZZ, amplifying the trans and gender non-conforming voices of Brisbane and beyond.
Hello, Meanjin. You're listening to Transmission on 4ZZZ. My name is Ez. I use he, him pronouns, and I'd like to begin by acknowledging the traditional lands of the Turrbal, Jagera and Jagera people, where 4ZZZ broadcast every single week for 24 hours, 7 days a week on both 102.1 FM and Z Digital. Always was, always will be Aboriginal land. And today, it's a very special episode. It's just me in studio monologuing to you, dear listener. So if you want to text in and have a chat or whatnot, you can text in on 0420 626 733. If you're listening back on demand or maybe on a podcast, you can text that number, but it won't be me responding. It's going to be an on-the-fly episode. We're having some fun. And I have thoughts. And if you like to listen to trans people's thoughts, you might like mine. We'll see. We're not monolith, obviously, but it's just me on the microphone, so it might as well be. All right, cool. We're going to go through some of the week of community events that are coming up or things that we should check out. And I'm also going to go through the winners of the community awards from Queensball, which was Pride Inc, which was over the weekend. I attended on behalf of Open Doors Youth Service, and there was some winners for all the categories, and we'll go through all that, and I'll share some thoughts on the event as well. So first up, this weekend, Saturday, July 6th from 2 p.m. at Jagera Community Hall, which is in South Brisbane, is International Non-Binary Day Celebration, which is a space for folk whose gender, or lack thereof, fall outside of the binary to sell their wares, perform, rest, celebrate, eat, play, sing, and collapse into a pit of blaha. We love our binary supporters and invite you to come and celebrate with us as well. Performances and open mic are at 4, 6 p.m. and 18 plus after 8 p.m. It's only running till 9, so it's only 18 plus for an hour. But yeah, and they're also partnering up with Shelf Lovers, which are in Wooloowin, on the 14th of July to host a non-binary author meet and greet, which will be from 11 to 1 p.m. For midday vibes and book-loving community. So yeah, you should check that out. Then, following weekend, July 14th, Sunday, at 10 a.m., till 4 p.m, Vault Games have their Winter Makers Market, which is in the city, in CBD, at Vault Games there. This is a completely free and all-ages event. If you want to see some awesome independent creators of Meanjin and what they're up to, the Makers Market is back. Come along to the next edition of the quarterly Vault Games Makers Markets, kicking off from store open. You'll be able to peruse the wares of independent creators, all within the cool air-conditioned play space. And hey, maybe stay for a game or two as well, so make sure you drop in. I believe some of the Z Games crew will also be there, and yeah, Vault Games is just a really cool and queer space. I've spent a lot of time there. I have a lot of time for the people in that business. It's a community run, and it's really great. So yeah, if you want to go to Vault Games and get your D&D vibes on as well, that's definitely a place you can do that. So yeah, that's the week in advance. We'll keep you updated each week as new events pop up. Every time that I mention events on Transmission, they're events that I know myself or from the Transmission team, that we know that they're trans-friendly, that the venue is trans-friendly, that it's a safer space for queer folk to be in. We do like to do our due diligence in that sense. Sometimes there are events that come up and I don't know the organizer or we don't know the organizer, but we don't announce it because we're not too sure, and we're looking out for our community, our trans community. But if you've got an event and you're a trans-friendly person and you're creating that space and you know how to do that and you're informed by the community, you can let us know at Trans Radio with a Z. You can pop on the Instagram, you can message me, you can also email me, transmission@4ZZZ.org.au, and let us know what event you have so I can mention it on air. If it's a free event, whether it's ticketed, just let us know. It's all about amplifying the trans voices and making sure that our community are safe. So yeah, let us know. Now we're going to talk about the winners of Queensball. So I'm just going to go through all the categories and list the winners as well. So, First Nations Leadership and Engagement Award went to Corey March. Activist of the Year was Helen Wheels. Ally of the Year, Tom Oliver. Young Achievement, Callum Cantrell. Community Social Group was Dykes on Bikes Queensland. Community Support Group, Free Mum Hugs. Community Sporting Group, Gay Skate Brisbane. Event of the Year, Bay Pride at Wynnum Fringe. Venue of the Year, The Sportsman Hotel. DJ of the Year, DJ Merlin. Artist of the Year, Dylan Mooney. Drag Performer of the Year, Gayleen Tuckwood. Volunteer of the Year, Imani Anderson. Performer of the Year, Archie Arsnick. Belle of the Ball, Yvette Darth. Proud Award for Justin Roseberg. And Lifetime Achievement Award for Betty Nature. So there you go. Congratulations to all the Brisbane Pride Queensball winners for, I think it's the 63rd Queensball for 2024. Good job. Good stuff. It's always nice when you get acknowledged from the community, especially because it is a popularity vote. So if you have the capacity to vote and get your word out there, and if you've been nominated, you do get to win, because that's how that system works. I attended over the weekend with Open Doors Youth Service, and I have some thoughts about it. Something that I did note was that through the entire thing, through the entire Brisbane Pride and the whole organisation, there was not even one person mentioned the word Palestine, which I found to be quite upsetting, to say the least. So I just want you to know that the trans community definitely does stand in solidarity with the people of Palestine and the act of genocide that is continuing over there, amplifying the voices of the trans and gender non-conforming community of Meanjin, Brisbane and beyond.
Transmission on 4ZZZ brings you the latest in trans community news, music and events.
Every Tuesday from 9am till 10am.
Join our team of hosts for an hour of celebrating the unique perspectives of the trans community.
Transmission, Tuesday mornings from 9am till 10am on 4ZZZ. You're listening to Transmission on 4ZZZ. My name is Ez. I use he, him pronouns. And I was just chatting about Queensball, which is the longest running LGBTQI+ event in the world, actually. And it's hosted here in Meanjin, Brisbane, every single winter, because you can wear many layers and that's very colourful to go to a ball. That's my logic. That, and it's also during June, which is apparently the co-opted Pride Month that we've now done in Australia, because it used to be definitely in September. I don't know what's happened. I think we're just like, oh, look, America's doing it. Let's just do what they do. And that's fine. I guess I'm not the overall ruler of when Pride is, but I have really been spun this year, because I swear last year it was in September, and it's just really suddenly changed. Anywho, I guess there's no such thing as tradition. We can do whatever we want, right? Which means that all these other traditional things that we go on and on about can just change at any time too, right? Like, when we have our quote-unquote Australia Day, maybe we could just change that one year pretty easily as well, right? Like, if we can just do that with Pride Month, surely we can do that with anything. Anyway, those are just some ponderings that Ez has at the moment. I'm going to talk a little bit more about Queensball, though. And I did mention that no one mentioned Palestine during the ceremony. There wasn't too much acknowledgement of a lot of really what the struggles are for trans people. And I know some people will be like, oh, Ez, but it's a celebration. It's a celebration. It's Pride. We want to celebrate our community, and we want to acknowledge the significance of the people that contribute to that community, and that despite all the hardships and all the oppression and the depression and all these things that we face, that we can celebrate the achievements within the community. And I agree. I'm all about celebrating. I'm still pretty gay. I like celebrating. Pride isn't really a party for me. Pride, to me, is a protest. And the reason that's the case is because that's exactly what trans people are doing. We're protesting all the time, almost every weekend, either in solidarity with Palestine or because we are having our rights constantly debated, or our lives debated, or our gender just questioned all the time, our existence questioned all the time. And going and celebrating and having a party with a bunch of really white cis gay people feels like a spit in the face, really, especially from a community that, as a trans person, I was standing in that march with you when you wanted marriage equality. When you wanted to get married to your same-sex partner, we were there for you. Trans people were there for you. And we stood in the street and we marched, and I remember being 14 years old, scared out of my mind, walking through Queen Street where there were more people looking at the march than there were in it. And it was really scary. And I spent many years in that march fighting for gay marriage. And then once we got it, and that was great. And then you all disappeared. That silence is what it feels like. Where'd you go? Yeah, I'm pretty disappointed. I'm pretty disappointed in the L's and the G's, maybe some of the B's. I don't know where you're at. But trans people are actually, in fact, dying at quite a high rate. And it's not because we don't want to be trans or that we don't exist or that we're wrong or anything like that. It's because we don't feel supported, or maybe because this world and your systems are crushing us, and we just exist. We didn't come up with this idea. We didn't come up with these notions. We've existed for as long as there have been First Nations people in every nation around the world. There have been trans people. There have been people that don't fit into your binary, into your two little boxes. We transcend all of those things. We transcend in our knowledge. We transcend in our minds. We transcend in how we feel. And we know that we're more than just two things. But what about you, dear listener? Are you more than just one or two things? Are you not a multiplicity of many different kinds of identities and personalities and flavors and tastes and colors? Because I certainly am, and I don't want to be put in a box. But I'm being told that I'm wrong and I'm dying. I'm not just dying. We're all dying. And we want to live. Pride isn't a party. Pride is a protest. Because we're trying to fight. We're fighting out there. I'm fighting out there, and I'm swimming and I'm swimming and I'm swimming, and I might look a bit like a swan on a lake. I look calm and cool and collected, but really I'm paddling frantically beneath the surface of that water, because that's what all trans people are doing. And some of them don't know how to paddle because they're children and they're drowning, and we got to help them, and we got to show up. We got to show up for them, damn it. So I'm just a little pained every time I go to Brisbane Pride and I go to Queensball and I see people that don't look like the community that I see on the front line every single day, celebrating things that we have well and truly overcome, and not mentioning the things that we're in the thick of right now, which is a lot of trans people need help. A lot of young people need help. You probably need help. I mean, if you're trans, we don't want to pass. We don't want to blend in. We don't want to hide away. We just want to exist. We just want to wear the things that we want to wear because they feel good. I want to wear what I want to wear because I feel good, don't you? And does it matter whether you like it or not? Because you don't have to wear it if you don't like it. It's actually a pretty easy decision to not be trans if you're not. But that's not what's happening. We're sinking, and we need help. And there are so many wonderful things that are happening, but you know who are fighting for those things? You know who the people are that are succeeding in helping get trans rights? It's other trans people. Trans people are having to advocate for themselves despite also suffering through this oppression to succeed to get the rights that we need. And if all allies, I don't even like the word ally, let's go with accomplice. If you're an accomplice, then you'll be in the thick of it with us, right? You'll be in that march the next time we have one. You'll make an effort to show up and scream and yell and stand in solidarity with the trans community. I was telling a friend of mine just recently why the L comes before the G in LGBTQIA+. And you know why? It's because during the AIDS crisis, well, actually, let's go before then. Before the AIDS crisis, the misogyny was quite thick within the gay community, and it still is, in my opinion. And gays didn't really like lesbians because they're women, mostly, right? And so that was kind of the status quo, was that gay men occupied almost all the bars, occupied all the spaces. They didn't want women around, so they told all the lesbians to F off. And so they did. And then the AIDS crisis happened. And then gay people started dying horrendously. And that era, by the way, we stand on the shoulders of those giants who survived that. So remember that if you're a Gen Z, that you're only here because of them. But during that time, those queers, all those gay people, they were all dying and abandoned in hospitals, like literally abandoned in hospitals. Nurses would forget that they were in rooms and just wait for these gay men to die. And you know who showed up? Lesbians, women. Despite all the misogyny, despite being exiled from community events, being left on the fringes, the lesbians showed up and they donated blood and they cared for them. They cared for them, and they cared for them till they lived or till they died. They were there. And in honor of that, the gay community put the L before the G. Because despite everything, lesbians went above and beyond to help them. And so, my question to you, dear listener, is when does the T come before the L and the G? When do we, the ones that are now suffering from a pandemic of suicide, when do you stand up with us? So yeah, I'm going to leave you with that. And when we come back, we can have a chat a bit more about pride and what it means to be trans in this world that we live in. You're listening to Transmission on 4ZZZ.
How do you get your daily fix of 4ZZZ?
Maybe you tune in during your daily commute in the car.
You could just stream it on our website, 4zzz.org.au.
Or maybe you've downloaded the Community Radio Plus app to listen on the go.
You can even ask your smart speakers to play 4ZZZ or Z Digital.
Give it a go.
However you're tuned in.
Thanks for listening to 4ZZZ.
Yeah. Anyway, you're listening to Transmission. My name is Ez. I use he, him pronouns. And I've been talking about how Pride is still a protest today. And I got pretty impassioned before. No one's messaged me in, probably because I'm scaring you all off. But if you want to message in and talk about Pride, you can on 0420626733. Yeah, it's an interesting time to be, I don't know, in the trans community with the public eye looking at the community all the time and pulling us apart. And I kind of just, I vented in my last segment, and I feel a little more centered now. So I'm going to try and inject a bit more joy and queer joy into the rest of this show. And I want to start by just acknowledging that you, dear 4ZZZ listener, are an incredible human being. You know why? Because community radio really is one of the most magical places, and you choose every single day or maybe once a week or whatever it is to tune into that community, which is essentially the sound of this city. And the sounds of this city are really diverse and intersectional and beautiful. And we live in a really beautiful city with a lot of amazing things that we should be proud of. But we also live in a city that has a pretty shady past. And I think 4ZZZ listeners are pretty progressive. And I know that when there are shows on Zed, including Transmission, where people talk about their feelings and they get very heated, and maybe we're not directing it at you necessarily, but that we know that 4ZZZ and the listeners that are here as announcers, we know that you listening hold that space for us so we can share what's going on in our respective communities, whether that be First Nations, whether that be disability, whether that be transness, queerness, or whether that be homelessness, people who identify with homelessness as well. We've got amazing broadcasts that cover off on all these different intersections of the community, and you support that. You support that by listening, and you're listening to the voices of this community, and you're holding that space. So thank you so much on behalf of Transmission and myself for holding that space while I talk to you about some of the struggles that I have and that trans people have within our queer community. We're not monolithic. We don't all get along, and there are definitely things that we have within our community that, we create some friction with each other. However, ultimately, at the end of the day, we're all queer. We're all together, and we all want liberation, and we all just want to exist. Mostly, the two things that people want is happiness and health. And those are the two things that we're struggling to achieve. And happiness and health might be being achieved by some aspects of our community, whether that be medical care or mental health support or whatever it is. They might be hitting those marks and they might be reaching all of Maslow's hierarchy of needs. But for a lot of people in that community, that's still not the case. And you may have heard the saying, if one of us aren't free, then none of us are free. That's still true. The trans community, we're not free. We're not free at all. And we're working our way towards it, but we really need hands at the top of the well pulling us up. And the only people that can do that are people like you, especially 4ZZZ listeners, because, I don't know, there's something about this community that just makes me keep going. And if it weren't for 4ZZZ, I definitely wouldn't be here. It's an amazing place, and it's full of incredible people that all want to listen and learn from each other, even if we don't get along. Just like the rest of the society and the world. We don't always get along, and that's okay. because we're not all meant to get along, but we are all meant to at least be happy and healthy. And so that's the goal, right? To be happy and healthy and to listen to great freaking music from that community itself, which is 4ZZZ. And all the music that you hear on transmission is by trans and gender non-conforming artists. I don't play any during the 1 hour of transmission that doesn't identify as trans or gender non-conforming. And the way that I know that is I stalk them. No, I'm kidding. I don't stalk them. When you're submitting music, if you are an artist, when you submit music to 4ZZZ, you can do that on the 4ZZZ website, 4ZZZ.org.au. There's a music submissions page. You can upload your music there. MP3s preferred. When you do that, you get a bunch of questions that are asked for you, and you can actually self-nominate what categories and labels or ways that you identify communities that you're a part of that you can tick. And that you can tick that for all members of your band or yourself as a solo artist, what have you. And then that shows up in our 4ZZZ database. And so when I'm looking through the database, there is a section in our database that is literally called Trans and Gender Diverse Artists, and I can scroll through all the self-identified trans, gender diverse artists, and I can pick some music from there. And sometimes I definitely see artists in there where I'm like, you're not trans, why have you clicked that box? So, please be mindful when you're clicking that I don't out you as well as part of a community that you're not. You might find that a bit strange. But yeah, we play lots of music from all different kinds of artists and different genres of music as well. But yeah, I'm really thoroughly enjoying the music that's coming through at the moment from the trans community. Brisbane has some amazing music. We have some incredible artists here. We have actually a really long history with punk and trans people in punk. If you know the Cutaways, you should definitely listen to them. Emmy is a pioneering trans woman in punk music. I just absolutely have so much time and energy for her and her band. And there's also Queerbait. Queerbait are a sensational band. They supported Bikini Kill last year. Maybe it was the year before. I don't know. We've got some great trans bands. And if you yourself are a trans artist, please submit music, or you can just tell me at trans.radio with a Z on our socials. Let me know that you've got music out there and I'll play it, because I want people listening to this show to be like, oh, that's a trans voice. That's a trans band. That absolutely slaps. So yeah. Something people ask me a lot too is like, oh, do you struggle to find trans music? I'm like, no, because not all people in bands are going to tell you that they're trans, by the way. And not all people are clockable as trans or gay or what have you. We're just people. We're all people before anything else. And yeah, submit your music. I want to play it. And if you want the world to know that you're there and that you want to be part of that representation, it's good to do. A band that I'm quite enjoying at the moment and that is very well loved on 4ZZZ is Hot Sex. And they've got a new track out called Long Dogs. Literally came out yesterday. And thank you so much for listening to Transmission and again, holding all that space. I'm just realizing now that a bunch of people have actually messaged in, but I didn't. For some reason, nothing was coming through. So thank you, Anna. Yeah, Anna's just asked, can you please say what each letter means as part of the LGBTQIA+? Okay, cool. I shall. So L, lesbian. G, gay. B, I'm not good with, I've got dyslexia, so bear with me. L, lesbian, gay, bisexual, trans, queer. So Q can actually represent a couple of things. It can represent queer, but it can also represent questioning. So if you're questioning your sexuality or questioning your gender, or it's a bit ambiguous and you don't know or you don't care, Q's a good one. Q I also recognize as queer, which is kind of a big catch-all. So you've got queer, questioning, and then you've got I, which is intersex, which is a biological thing. It happens to a large number of people where you're either born with both biological both hormones, both male and female hormones, and sex characteristics. And that's quite a common thing. And then you also have P. P represents pansexual. And then you also have plus, which is kind of like a catch-all. There's also SB, which is sister girl and brother boy, which is a way of recognizing our trans and gender diverse First Nations people of this country. So, and in North America, they actually use 2S. Well, not just North America, most of the Americas, they use 2S, which means two-spirit, which is people that embody both masculine and feminine energies and everything around and between. And so you could say that brother boy and sister girl are also falling into that same category, but for our First Nations community here in so-called Australia. So, yeah, I hope that helps, Anna. And thank you, Sass, as well, for messaging in. I appreciate everyone supporting this community, and a great way that you can support 4ZZZ and support Transmission is by subscribing. So please subscribe to 4ZZZ.org.au/support. You can get a full subscription. All subscriptions are annual, and all subscriptions come with perks. So you should check them all out. They're all listed on the website. One of my favorite perks, absolute favorite perks of being a subscriber of 4ZZZ is that I get a 10% discount at Down Shoes. So when I want to go get some new pair of Docs, I get 10% off. I don't know if that does it for you, but it definitely does it for me. So yeah, we've got subscriber discount outlets all around. And so you can check that out on the 4ZZZ website also. 4ZZZ.org.au. I'm actually running out of time because I'm explaining too much. You've been listening to Transmission on 4ZZZ. I hope you have a lovely rest of your day, and we'll see you next week. And yeah, love you all. Bye!
Thank you so much for listening to Transmission. See you next Tuesday, 9 to 10 a.m. on 4ZZZ.